Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the 5 Sports Show. What a win for West Virginia. What a win in the Backyard Brawl, the 108th edition. Wow. After last week, I'll tell you what, I don't think any of us thought that was going to happen. What a comeback for the Mountaineers. Down 10 in the fourth quarter, coming back to win it in overtime. Atticus Pead joining you here. Cam Murray and Zach Anderson were at the game today. We'll hear from them at the field. I'll get you over to them quickly. Just a couple of very quick thoughts before we send it over to them. And I'll rejoin you at the end of the episode to talk more about what I saw from home after they share what they saw on the field in Morgantown today. Now, first things first, I don't know how many of you were predicting a win. You probably weren't predicting it like that because that was wild. What a game for the Mountaineers. What a way to do it. Really, it comes down to 2 stars, right? It comes down to Nico Marchiol coming up clutch in the fourth quarter and beyond, and it comes down to Ty Edwards. After Jaheim White went down against Ohio last week, I mean, did any of you see any running game coming up this week? I certainly didn't. And Ty Edwards came out of nowhere. 25 runs, 141 yards, 3 touchdowns. Wow. West Virginia really leaned into the physicality this week. There were plays with 9 offensive linemen on the field to score touchdowns, pick up first downs. You saw the tush push everywhere. That was really a Mountaineer-like way to win, if you will. I think that's what you all wanted to see from home. That's what Rich Rodriguez certainly wants from the team. There was no quit like there was last week against Ohio. Maybe not necessarily quit, but last week it just felt like there were no answers. And this week things got a little scattershot. It wasn't all perfect, of course. Some of the quarterback decisions were bizarre, but when it mattered, West Virginia came up clutch, and there was a lot of mental resilience, I think. Just a will to win, a will to not lose this game in front of the home crowd. That was really seriously impressive for the Mountaineers. It's hard to understate that. That was incredibly impressive, and it's at home, and you couldn't lose that game, and you could feel it. Those players were not ready to lose that game, and that bled over throughout the entire second half and into overtime. I mean, it looked like West Virginia was done when Pitt went up 24-14. It just looked like that was it, or 24-17 even. It just felt like it was kind of over. And Marchiol willed them down the field on that drive to end the fourth quarter to tie things up. And then in overtime, I mean, once Ty Edwards punched it in again, you just felt like this could be it. And then it was quickly. So plenty of credit to go around. Those 2 are the guys I've called out on offense. Plenty more. Really, though, that defense, incredibly tough all game long. Giving up 24 points was really impressive with I think the ability that Pitt has. They're certainly better than what they showed today. And that's not because Pitt was just bad. West Virginia's defense was really, really good. And you could see the energy and that same will to not lose the game. These guys were ready to go win it, and they went out and showed that. West Virginia's defense has really been, I think, their most impressive unit all throughout the start of the season. That's from game 1 until now. They've been the most impressive out there all throughout these games. And today, they really showed that this is the unit that's going to drive the team forward this year. Offense is going to have its issues, clearly, and they had their issues tonight. But the defense kept them in it, and the offense took what they needed, took what they could get. And then when they were ready to make the big plays, they were in position to do so because the defense had kept Pitt to just 24 points, when really it could have been a lot more due to those turnovers, holding those 2 Scotty Fox turnovers, those interceptions. Those could have been 2 touchdowns quickly, and instead Pitt was held to 2 field goals. That was the difference. The defense held. They didn't break when they needed to. What a performance from the defense here. What a performance from West Virginia. What a way to win. I imagine you're going to be celebrating this one long into the night. Let's send you over now to Cam Murray and Zach Anderson for more on what they saw at Milan Puskar Stadium.
Well, welcome into the 5 Sports Show, and Zach.
I mean, what a night here in Morgantown. What do you even say to this? What do you even say after this game, after this performance, after this week? What do you even say?
Zach, I'm going to let you handle it, man. I mean, this was one of the best games. I mean, I don't think coming back 11 seconds to go, Nico Marchiol passed to Grayson Barnes right in the end zone.
Yeah, that was an awesome play. That was right in front of us.
Right there,
yeah. That was right in front of us.
And the twists and turns, the ups and downs. I mean, this is the Backyard Brawl. This is why you come to West Virginia if you're a Mountaineer. And, of course, this is why you're a West Virginia fan. Coming into this game, it was electric.
The atmosphere was awesome.
The striping the stadium, the flyover. I mean, this couldn't have been a better situation, game for all the fans out there.
Yeah.
And they were able to do it 31-24. But let's get into the game itself. Okay.
Okay.
West Virginia offense did start a little bit slow.
They did.
They started a little bit slow, but they did score first. Their defense, West Virginia's defense, got a great forced fumble to begin the game.
Yeah.
Something that I heard Eli Holstein talk about in the press conference. He said that really did kind of affect the morale and the whole kind of composure of this team. The first snap of the game is a fumble. They recovered it, but West Virginia was slowly getting back into the game, getting back offensively. What were you noticing from their kind of offensive approach in that first quarter?
Early in the game, West Virginia tried to run the ball. They wanted to, establish that run game. You knew that right from the start. But then later on in the game, it seemed like they started to speed their tempo up a little bit like West Virginia does. I know you said the beginning of the game, but I'm jumping to the end of the game here a little bit.
Wherever you want to go.
But at the end of the game, it seemed like Pitt kind of, brought the tempo a little bit, and they were kind of playing into West Virginia's hand in that way because they were making, unforced errors, some mistakes as well. You saw an interception and then a near interception at the end of the game, the one in overtime on third down. That was almost an interception. Of course, West Virginia ended up getting the stop. We'll talk about that as well. So, but the offense for Pitt was also not quite there either. I mean, early in the game, you saw West Virginia's offense, get that early touchdown. Other than that, the offense still wasn't really impressive until the second half, in my opinion. Wasn't really impressive, and you thought, maybe some woes again for the West Virginia offense. They got it going in the second half, though. And
they did.
The defense, I want to touch them on them as well real quick because they can't hold forever, and they played really well in the first half of this game. Second half, though, started to break a little bit, let up a couple touchdowns. I know 10 points just in the third quarter for Pitt in this one. It made it 24-14. A lot of West Virginia fans might have been leaving at that point.
Oh, I hope not.
I hope not, but
they might have tried to get a burger or something in the blue lot before they left or something like that. But I mean, you kind of touched on it a lot. West Virginia running the football coming into this game was a big concern. Missing Jaheim White, not knowing who's going to take the reins, but Ty Edwards. I mean,
big shout out to Ty Edwards.
He impressed everyone in this building today, showing what he can do, running hard running, getting first downs, getting the Mountaineers in scoring position, of course, and then scoring, obviously.
Twice.
Twice, and then an overtime.
Oh, the overtime touchdown, too, so he got 3 touchdowns in this one.
He had a great day, and then let's talk a little about the quarterbacks, all right? So we saw Nico Markiel start the game. Then we saw Scotty Fox come in.
Pretty rough for Scotty Fox.
Pretty rough, but he did have that one pass to Justin Smith-Brown.
That was nice.
That was
a nice play.
Maybe more on Smith-Brown than it was a short pass.
It was just like a screen, but yeah.
But 3 different quarterbacks in a rivalry game, the biggest game of the season. We saw Rich Rodriguez play, the same thing we've been seeing in the depth chart all the last few weeks. And that was a reality in this game.
Oh, certainly.
What did he say when asked about his decision to take Nico Markiel out, put Scotty Fox in? What did he say to that?
So during the press conference, the question was, what's the reasoning for the quarterback switches? What's the reason for what Nico, whenever he played in the beginning of the game and the end of the game? And Rich Rodriguez kept it simple. He literally just said, I'm the head coach. I can make the decisions how I want. He wanted to put Scotty Fox in next and then wanted to put Jalen Henderson next in that order. And he said, simply, it was my choice. So there wasn't much explanation there. Maybe we'll find out more as the week goes on. Maybe we can, on Tuesday during the press conference, the reporters there can dig in a little more to that. But really no explanation. Nico ended up coming back in and leading the offense. So it was really an impressive performance from him on both ends of the game. But in the middle of the game, you saw Jalen Henderson, Scotty Fox come in. The offense didn't move the ball very well when they were in. So definitely it was a change of pace, I guess, but it ended up working out for Nico. He ended up getting the reins at the end, and it ended up working out for West Virginia because they got the win because of it.
But, I mean, for Nico Markiel to be on the bench in the locker room, that's almost, 1 or 2 hours not seeing the field, not getting loose,
This was like a 4.5-hour game.
Yeah,
so.
It was honestly, probably one of the longest games of the whole weekend.
The
way it was going. But for Markiel to be on the bench and not know when he's going to get called back in the game, to stay focused, stay locked in, come in for the last 3 minutes of the game, drive the team down from, where were they, about the 25, 30-yard line, all the way down the field.
Drove all the way in.
And made that, magical pass to Grayson Barnes.
Yeah,
a lot of fans will always remember that play.
He was
right
locked
there.
in that drive. I got to say, Nico Markiel was locked in that drive. Big shout out to him as well because you got to commend his leadership. Coach Rich Rodriguez, he talked about during the press conference how he's a fighter. He's tough. He's what West Virginia is in his words. So you got to give him credit for that. He led that touchdown drive, tied this game up.
Man, he's a baller for sure. Now, to kind of close the book on this game a little bit, let's talk about the defense. Let's go more on them because they were able to hold a Pitt team who, scored a bunch of points in their first 2 weeks, albeit maybe not against the ACC competition or the Big 12 competition, but Pat Narduzzi in the press conference, he kind of came out and just said it like, hey, look, this ain't the MAC. We're playing a Big 12 team in their building. It's a rivalry. And a lot of the guys on their side got affected a lot by like fans, the atmosphere in general.
Especially in overtime.
Yeah.
I can't deny in overtime the impact that the fans had on this game because, I mean, it was just rocking inside of this building. The West Virginia faithful were certainly getting into the ear of Eli Holston.
Yes.
Got to give a credit to the fans because they showed out, especially in overtime when this game was closed, whenever it mattered the most. I'm sure Rich Rodriguez would agree with me. The fans showed up when it mattered the most in overtime.
Man, I couldn't pick out an empty seat in the building the entire game. It was nuts. But going kind of off this, they head to Kansas next week after this great rivalry win. Now, if we can go back to the history books a little bit, Zach, correct me if I'm wrong. West Virginia was undefeated at home in this rivalry.
Correct.
Since what date was that? When they were last time they lost? Was that 07?
I think 07 is the last loss that West Virginia has had at home in the backyard brawl. Kind of a crazy stat there. And something I saw on ESPN, shout out to their crew tonight, they had a stat where they said the home team had won this game 4 consecutive times. Make that 5 consecutive times now. So this series is dominated by the home field advantage, and that was the case tonight once again.
And, I don't want to get too caught up in the coincidences, the special things, but when you lose 13-9 in 2007, and then you come and win, in overtime fashion on 9-13.
Yeah.
In the first game, Rich Rod's coming back. A lot of things going West Virginia's way.
That's
and
true.
It all worked out in the end positively for West Virginia. They take the backyard brawl. Just a great day. Just a great win in general. And, that's going to do it for this 5 Sports Show Instant Reaction. We'll have plenty more coverage throughout the week.
Stay tuned. We'll have plenty more about this game.
We'll hear from Atticus as well. We'll also be hearing from Rich Rodriguez on Tuesday in his press conference. But once again, just an incredible night. Great game. And West Virginia takes the win. And I will say, the thing that should be the scariest part of Morgantown, the most wanted, is those couches.
Those couches better watch out.
If you're a couch in Morgantown, you better hide yourself.
I know that the event staff here at Milan Puskar was keeping an eye on those field goal posts after this game because there was fans that was rushing towards them after this. But yes, certainly watch out for the couches in Morgantown. They might be on fire tonight.
And just before we go, students did try to storm the field. I was over in that corner end zone, and a student unfortunately he made it on the field. The state troopers tackled him down and pepper spraying him. But I will say, he was singing the Country Roads song the entire time. Eyes are getting filled with pepper spray, and this guy is still just singing the song.
That's undeniable heart.
That almost brought a tear to my eye. That was awesome. That was great. So, like we said, instant reaction from the backyard brawl win for West Virginia. We'll see you guys in the next episode. We'll also hear from Atticus now and his thoughts on this game.
Early on, I have to admit, I was starting to keep track of all the missed chances for West Virginia, the big missed chances, if you will. Obviously, that first possession for Pitt, that fumble that West Virginia should have recovered and didn't. Instead of just falling on the ball, trying to pick it up and go for the scoop and score, that cost them, didn't get the fumble back. Then next possession that West Virginia gets on offense, missing that 44-yard field goal. Just 2 big missed opportunities early, and then the Mountaineers went up and they held Pitt to just 3 points in the first half. Impressive, but it just felt like there were opportunities kind of sort of getting left by the wayside in that first quarter. Beyond that, it wasn't, I don't think, as bad. Still plenty to do on offense, but I stopped keeping track later in the game because, Pitt was terrible. They missed a lot of opportunities on their end as well. But also it felt like this just turned into a real rivalry, scrappy game where everyone was leaving opportunities out there because this was just such an emotional, combative contest. You could feel that. That translated really well on screen. If you were watching it on TV like I was, you could feel the physicality. You could feel the rivalry from minute 1 up until the end throughout that entire game. So give a ton of credit to West Virginia. They deserve it for winning this game. And that's not... Again, after Ohio last week, I don't know how many of you thought this was even possible. This team just didn't look like they had the willingness in them, that will to win, if you will, the will to fight and not quit. It just seemed different than last week, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe last week's loss sort of helped spur that on a little bit. Of course, losing to Ohio is pretty brutal, and that 2-1, it's going to sting now. 2 wins, 1 loss. You should have beaten Ohio. You really should be 3-0. But at the end of the day, maybe that loss spurred on this win more than I think we can appreciate from the outside of the team here. I imagine there was a pretty brutal practice week, a pretty brutal reckoning from Rich Rodriguez, the coaching staff, and beyond throughout the week in terms of what West Virginia is and what they can be. We knew they're more talented than Ohio. They just never showed it. And then tonight, I think they showed it against Pitt, but more importantly than just talent, they showed a greater willingness to win. That really just came down to fight. It came down to spirit. It came down to grit, and West Virginia had it. They had it more so than Pitt did, and it's hard to be disappointed with that. That's a pretty great feeling to have as a Mountaineer fan. If you're walking away from this game as one of the fans of West Virginia, you're feeling pretty great. Again, you wish you beat Ohio. You're not going to go wrong winning a game like that over your biggest rival. And you're not going to play them for 4 more years. You can hold this over your Pitt fans for the next half decade nearly. That's going to be such a great feeling going forward from here. So, big picture, there's still plenty left in the season, right? You're a quarter of the way through, 3 games, 2-1, still plenty left to go. You got Kansas coming up next. At the end of the day, enjoy this victory for what it is. That's a great rivalry win. And West Virginia should feel very proud of what they've accomplished right now. And of course, there's still plenty left to do. The offense left a lot out there. They really did leave a lot out there. And even with the great plays they had, Ty Edwards was so great out there today. He did such a good job running the ball. And that was such an impressive response from last week when they just couldn't run at all when Jaheim White was out of the game. So offensively, coming out in the second half, and West Virginia took that 14-3 lead after the big pass play. Scotty Fox out to Smith Brown, 56 yards. Finally get that big play. West Virginia gets the 11-point lead, and then Pitt comes right back, gets it down to 14-11. So when Fox came back out there, I was a little surprised. It felt like he was put in to bring some juice to the offense, and he did, albeit short little screen pass. He didn't need to do too much, but it was a great play and a great drive from him on the last drive. Then he threw the pick. Then he threw that first pick, and you felt a little nervous. That first pick was really bad, right to the defender. And then Pitt gets the field goal, and so it's 14-14. Scotty Fox comes back out looking to atone, and then he gives that second pick away right there. I think it's pretty clear, obviously. Scotty Fox, big part of the future here for Rich Rodriguez and for the Mountaineers. Clearly very talented. I don't know if a true freshman quarterback should be in Game 3 in a biggest rivalry game out there. Again, it led to the touchdown to start the second half. Great for the Mountaineers, great for him, great for Coach Rodriguez, putting him into that gauntlet and letting him succeed there. But it really was just one big play, and then, of course, the 2 interceptions followed that up. The reality is, I thought that lost West Virginia the game, because Pitt went up 17-14 after the 2 picks, and then they scored again. It's 24-14, and it just felt like West Virginia was gone at that point. So credit again to the Mountaineers for coming back past that, because those 2 picks could have done a lot more damage than they did, both on the scoreboard and mentally, and clearly the team was strong enough to overcome that. And I think a lot of that comes down to Nico Marchiol, because after Fox threw the 2 picks, again, I thought for sure Marchiol was going to come back in, and then Jalen Henderson goes out there. And again, Henderson, the guy just can't hit a pass. He's just missing passes left and right, and so you just couldn't get first downs. And then you get the butt sack, if you will, in the fourth quarter, 11 minutes, 26 seconds left on that 4th and 4. He gets sacked by, the center just backs up into him. It just felt like things were over at that point. It didn't know if Marchiol was going to come back in. Your 2 quarterbacks making mistakes left and right. Pitt's about to go score again. But again, West Virginia just found a way to get back into it, stay connected. And when Marchiol came back in, down 10, he really put together some serious drives there. All credit to him. Didn't lose to Pitt 2 years ago in the same spot, coming in for an injured Garrett Green. Sort of felt like deja vu this time. He wasn't coming in for an injured quarterback in front of him, but he was coming back in the second half in the fourth quarter, having been frozen out effectively after leading just 1 touchdown drive in the first half, even though he was efficient. And then he really led the team on 2 really effective drives to close that game out, to get it back to a tie game, and then, of course, in overtime as well. West Virginia's identity that Rich Rodriguez wants, run that ball, pound it in. You got Ty Edwards behind me on screen. That's what they did. They pounded it in. And huge credit to Marchiol. Because as the leader of the offense, as the quarterback, he really showed the toughness and grit and mental resilience more than anything else to put that game together. And that doesn't even mention his efficiency. 19-25, 192 yards and a touchdown, and those big passes to Grayson Barnes, the touchdown jump pass, that seam pass over the middle to get that big first down on that final drive. Marchiol showed a ton of poise out there, and the reality is, he wasn't that effective, of course, in the first half, but he still was efficient, and he still was doing what the offense needed, which it may not have been as big as the points, but West Virginia's offense was doing what they needed, which was not getting those dumb 3-and-outs. those 3-and-outs that were 45 seconds, give the defense no rest, let the other team get back on the field. That's what they did all last week to Ohio. Those were mostly gone from today. Still there, of course. You're still going to have 3-and-outs regardless of how good your team may be. But there were far less of those in the first half, and I was really impressed with Mark Hill for that. So to me, it was a surprise that Scotty Fox came out in the second half. Not because Fox didn't didn't have that great drive, he did, but Mark Hill's efficiency and the ability to extend the drive a little bit was really helping West Virginia there. Of course, a lot of that comes down to the defense too. West Virginia's defense was able to keep Pitt from stringing together those big drives like Ohio did last week, and that was really the big difference too. But staying on the theme of the offense again, I was still surprised that Mark Hill came out. I was still surprised he was pulled to start the second half. I was surprised he didn't come in after the first pick, and then the Henderson came in ahead of him. I just don't see how you can keep doing that from here on out, because Mark Hill led an incredible win, an unforgettable win for West Virginia, one that's going to stand for a long time, and now, hey, 2 wins for him here in Morgantown against Pitt. It's hard to top that, and this gives you a ton of confidence going forward for West Virginia. I don't know what's going to happen this year. The team's plenty of ups, plenty of downs. Who knows? This still may not lead to a bowl game or anything like that, but it's led to a tremendous win here. This isn't just going to be a great memory. This is going to be one that you'll feel great putting on the walls in the team locker room, putting on the plaster out there in the Milan Puskar Stadium and the facility there, the practice facility and beyond. That is a great win to put up there, because this took a ton of grit and resilience from the offense. And that, again, comes down in large part to Mark Hill and Ty Edwards and that offensive line, who's willing to grit through and push through a lot of adversity and a lot of bad possessions today to come up clutch when it mattered. Credit to the Mountaineers offense. They put it together in a way that I didn't think they could do after Ohio last week. That was really impressive from them. And then, of course, charting back to really, I think, the key unit that won the game today, it is the defense. You gave up 24 points, of course, but West Virginia's defense had a ton of speed, and they kept Eli Holstein off his mark throughout much of the game. First half especially. Holstein, it was sort of like West Virginia's defenders had this 4 or 5 foot fear radius around them. Anytime they'd get near him within a few feet, he was bolting immediately, and he'd pull the ball down and walk into a sack or walk into a poor 1-2 yard gain, and that was it, and just leave guys hanging, his receivers hanging on the offense. West Virginia's D-line and linebackers played incredibly well, keeping him off the mark. Of course, he eventually had the big plays. Holstein's very talented, and he showed that with those big passes later in the game. But West Virginia's defense really showed up, and they really showed up by keeping those chances for Pitt down to a minimum. They held them to those field goals after the 2 picks again, and 3 points in the first half. Not going to ask for much better than that. So I think at the end of the day, you've got to feel great as a fan going on from here. Who knows what's going to happen next? Plenty of things can go wrong from here. Plenty of things can go right as well. At the end of the day, you just beat Pitt. You just won your biggest rivalry game at home, and you did it in a tremendous fashion. There is no doubt West Virginia is better than Pitt today because of how they responded to that. A lot of mental toughness that I don't know if many teams would have in Game 3 of a new coach's era. All credit to Rodriguez for instilling that. All credit to Zach Alley and those other coaches for putting that in the team, because that's what they had today. It really just came down to mental toughness. I don't think the talent gap was that big between the two teams, to either way, however you want to look at it. But the mental gap certainly was, because Pitt folded late and West Virginia did not. And West Virginia punched them right in the mouth, down those late drives, down those goal line runs, those 4th and inches conversions, those tush-push conversions. They may not have had the most explosive burst on them, but every time it was just enough to keep it going late. And that's what mattered. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. You just beat Pitt. You just won the backyard brawl. That's all you need to know. That's all really that matters at this point. Rivalry games, as you all know from watching these Pitt games the past few years and beyond that throughout history, rivalry games are weird. They never really translate well to the next week or beyond. It's always just a slugfest, especially this backyard brawl. Every time it's a rock fight. What is it, 7 of the last 9 now, decided by 7 points or less? These games are brutal every time, no matter who wins them. So going forward from here, I don't know how much of this is going to translate over to next week and beyond when you go on the road at Kansas and beyond that, with Utah, BYU coming up next, UCF beyond that. Who knows? Maybe a lot of progress. It may be like a 2 steps forward, 1 step back thing, because you're going to lose some of that rivalry bump here. Hard to say. Again, we won't know until we see more of the team from here. I don't know how much you can take away from this. But assuming this kind of thing continues, you're in a great spot. You've got a Ty Edwards who I think can be a clear number 1 running back. It'd be great to have Jaheim White right now. Boy, Mountaineers missed him tonight. And I think going forward, of course, you're going to miss him the rest of the season, but Edwards showed a lot of juice out there. And so you may have a real number one running back there. I think Nico Markiel needs to be the number one quarterback. Henderson can't be out there throwing passes. And Scotty Fox, plenty of talent out there. I think he'll get plenty more snaps throughout the season, of course. And he certainly showed some spark when the Mountaineers needed it, but those turnovers were really costly. And I'm not sure the Mountaineers can run the score up enough to make up for those in these games like this. So I think Markiel's efficiency really showed a lot out there. He should be the starting quarterback. He should remain that going forward. He really put in a great effort here today. And his leadership on offense, his willingness to come back in, throw the ball well, do it efficiently, do it effectively, I just think there's so much you take away from that. That's so hard to do in a rivalry game. This is not your Penn States of the world, your Texases of the world, your Ohio States of the world. That's okay. But a rivalry game is just as intense as those games would be, and Markiel showed a ton of mental toughness to get through that. Power to him. Power to him, man. That's a starting quarterback right there. That's a Mountaineer quarterback right there that really should be staying at that spot, I think, going forward from here. He's shown that he deserves the number one spot. And again, it may not be perfect. Ohio wasn't perfect last week. There were plenty of missed opportunities for him this week as well. But that was such a good effort from him. So as we wrap this thing up, again, you just won the backyard brawl. It's hard to complain about that. Enjoy it. Revel in it. You're going to hold this over the Pitt fans for the next 4 years, and you should, because that was a great win against a team led by a quarterback who, Heisman dark horse on many boards. You remember last year, he led Pitt on a huge win over West Virginia up in Pittsburgh. So to hold him down like that, to keep him from burning your defense too often, and then to come out and win the game like that in the fourth quarter and overtime, hard to understate how important I think that will be going forward. That turns this season from 1-2 and feeling like 2-10, 3-9, 4-8 on the cards to now, I think a bowl game feels far more realistic. And beyond that, just because of how important this win is, it's such a big deal to beat your rival like this and to effectively prove, yeah, we're better than them. I think West Virginia really proved that here tonight. So credit to the Mountaineers. Great win. Hope you all enjoy it out there. Hope you all enjoy it safely out there. I know Morgantown can get pretty crazy out there. So driving around on Saturday today, we've seen plenty of fans joining together for the tailgate party or even just outside the house, having fun in the driveway, if you will. So enjoy it. Great win. Great win for the Mountaineers. Such a great job by the team. I think the fans put together an incredible performance out there in Morgantown as well. Such a great atmosphere. That, I think, was such a unique thing to see. As someone who's not from West Virginia, as an outsider to hear, that was really showing off the best of what Mountaineer fans are and what the team is out there, too. Not going to find much better than that. So I hope you all enjoy this Saturday. What a win for the Mountaineers. We'll have more recapping this game and what this means going forward and previewing next week's matchup and beyond. Stick with us next week as we'll have more for you then. For now, though, that is all from us on the 5 Sports Show. West Virginia beats Pitt 31-24 in overtime. For Atticus Pead, Cam Murray, and Zach Anderson, thank you all for joining us. We hope you enjoy this incredible Saturday night backyard brawl win.